ask you those questions. I'm just going to make sure that Jake is recording back there. Jake, you good to go?
Yes, sir. It's currently recording.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Okay.
All right. Just tell us when you're ready for us to do the intro.
Okay. Let's just start off by saying hello and hi and all that stuff, and then we'll just jump into the first question. So, not to be informal or awkward, we'll cut off the first couple seconds of this. But Josh, Trevor, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming down to talk with us. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Definitely. For those of us who don't know, can you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your handle?
Sure. I'm Josh Hughes with Addatudez Entertainment Company, Team Kaizen and Ingenium.
I'm Trevor Hughes with all of those as well. I'm Vice President.
And we're Montana's first PlayStation certified game studios. Team Kaizen is our for-profit side. Ingenium is our 501c3 nonprofit. And we view ourselves as teaching studios, which means that when we're not making our own video games, we do heavy amounts of outreach to show people the S.T.E.M, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and math, careers, and potential for community impact held within game design and entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's a really cool sentence that you just told me there. There was a lot of refined words in there, I imagine. That's impressive.
Elevator pitch. We're used to dropping it like that.
Yeah, I want to talk to you guys later about those elevator pitches that I see you giving so well out there. But before we get into a little bit more about the cool exposure you guys have been getting and at the scale you guys have been getting so quickly, for those of us who aren't aware a little bit more, you briefly touched that you do support kids in the learning of STEM, and you're a game development studio, but can you give us a little bit more detail about what kind of is that the two of you do and how it kind of revolves around you and your family?
Well, should we start off with the family story?
Yeah, like go ahead and you cover that and then I'll...
Okay, so when I'm 29 in December this year, and when I was 12, I was going out for a sports physical, and they wouldn't pass my sports physical all weekend. You know, high blood pressure. Tried not drinking energy drinks, tried sleeping for an hour before we went, you know, all kinds of stuff. And finally they said, you need to go see your primary doctor. I go in for my primary checkup. My blood work was all kinds of crazy, and we found out that I was knocking on death's door. I was days from keeling over from kidney failure. And so our whole lives got turned upside down. Our mom was told by my doctor that if you want to save your child's life, you need to quit your job. She said, cool, done. And our father wanted nothing to do with a sick kid. Told me on New Year's Eve, you know how much money you're going to... Oh, yeah. Christmas Eve. Thank you, Josh. You know how much money you're going to cost me, kid? And I was fresh out of surgery. I just didn't even want to deal with it. Turned around, went back in the car. Josh got me back in the car, and Mom laid into the guy and said, he's not going to cost you a darn thing.
You're out.
And yeah, you're gone. So we divorced, went bankrupt, had to move in with our grandparents. And about 2 years into my illness, I was in yet another surgery. Josh and Mom worked odd ends and jobs trying to keep us afloat. And Josh finally looked at Mom and said, you know, Mom, normal isn't working for us. Why don't we try going crazy? And for us, going crazy meant starting a game studio.
Yeah, and so I had done some previous work in the game industry. Like, I had a friend that ran a small indie studio before indie was even a term. Indie, it was called Two Guy Software and Crucifix, but they're now disbanded, and that was forever ago. But I had learned some basics of game design on there. And so we knew we wanted to start a game studio. We weren't quite sure how. And then this woman in town named Rebecca Ingham, who was with our small business development center, she's now the director of tourism for our city, found out and told us, if you guys are serious, I'll teach you how to be entrepreneurs. And she took us under her wing, taught us how to pitch, how to present.
It was crazy. When we went into her office, the first time she gave us a packet that was like that thick of paperwork to like do. And she's like, all right, I'll see you guys when I see you. And that's kind of her litmus test. And we had it done within the week.
Yeah.
And so she knew we were serious.
And so we started building a team. We started meeting people online who had a similar idea of, hey, let's build a studio together. And at first we were just kind of dedicated to doing what we wanted to do, which is the fighting game we're working on Team Kaizen side. It's called Shattered Soul. It's kind of a attempt to bring back 90s style 3D fighters, and what we mean by 90s style is full 3D movement, crazy environmental interaction, whether it's like getting a ring out, or in the case we kind of crank it to 11, like we have a prototype demo where it's two fighters on a pier with carnival rides, and we have people like jumping on the swinging boat ride, and they're standing on it as it's swinging back and forth and punching each other and stuff. And we were first very laser focused on doing that, and we're still working on it, of course. But kind of crazy event happened in 2010. You know, Little Big Planet had just come out. I was obsessed with Little Big Planet, still am.
And he's a huge nut for rides and roller coasters.
Yeah, so Sony announced a contest with this group called Haystack, which is Humanities, Arts, Science, and Technology, or no, Humanities, Arts, Science, Technology, Advanced Collaboratory.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, and they're a group that's with the MacArthur Foundation. And they wanted to see if people could teach STEM, because, you know, back then it was called STEM, not STEAM. They hadn't added the arts in yet, through games like Little Big Planet. And I was like, well, I have a ton of rides that I've built in Little Big Planet that I hadn't released to the community yet. So I just made a flat pier across the entire level, put rides along with ride attendants that would explain different things like positive, negative G's, kinetic and potential energy, that kind of stuff. And I was like, what the heck, you know, throw it out there. If I win, great. If not, no worries.
Just went off our back.
Yeah, because I was going to post it anyways. So, you know, kill two birds with one stone. I get an email saying that I'm one of the grand prize winners and that they want me to take my idea of that and turn it into an entire level pack for Little Big Planet 2.
And we had to be in New York within the week.
Yeah, we had to be in New York in 2 weeks to accept a grant from Haystack and the MacArthur Foundation to turn
40 grand.
Yeah, we got 40 grand over a year, and so, you know, we bought all our staffers PlayStations. We paid them for work that they had done up to that point. It was so great
on our stuff.
It was so great to be able to say thank you to our crew with that. But as we were working on that, we were kind of having a freak out moment, because we're like, you know what, we're having a lot of fun doing this, but we were still stuck in the mentality that a lot of studios had back then, and still even to this day, of you're either a normal studio or you're an educational studio that makes stuff exclusively for classrooms, and there's no bridge between the two. And we were freaking out going, well, we want to make Shattered Soul, we want to make a fighting game, but we also see value here and see potential for impact here. And then we finally realized, you know, that's a made up paradigm, that it's no, you don't have to follow that. So we coined the term teaching studio and started telling people, well, we're involved in all sorts of stuff. And at first it was just Team Kaizen. But then as we started doing more and more work, and that led to us doing game design camps for kids with Little Big Planet, and giving talks both in person and via streaming services to
all over the country, Canada, and some in Mexico.
Yeah, so it got to the point where it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, that we finally got 501c3 nonprofit status, and we decided to, instead of trying to force Team Kaizen to be a nonprofit, we would have a second studio that would be our nonprofit, and that's where Ingenium was born.
Actually,
yeah, and Ingenium's logo is a fox rocking a gaming headset. So
I like it.
On there, but
yeah,
actually, yeah. One sec, I've got the original right here on the wall.
Yeah, our friend drew us the original, and of course, Trevor is step by step through the course of this interview deconstructing my whole wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there, it's in shot.
Oh, cool. He hand drew it.
Yeah, like one of our artists did. Yeah.
Yep, and I will put all this back after we are done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that got kicked off with that, and we continued doing what we're doing. And after E3 this year, through a serendipitous amount of events, we got talking to Twitch, and they were like, well, hey, can you guys do like a test on our platform for the months of like July and August? Just do some streams, show people that you can mix education and game design and fun, and
try to get in about 7 hours a week.
Yeah, and so we started doing streams on their platform where at least once a week we would do an educational one. So on Mondays we would do what we call Game Design 101 on our handle which is twitch.tv/Addatudez, and that's ADDATUDEZ, all one word. But we would do Game Design 101 on Mondays. We would do fun hangout streams throughout the week where we play different games. In some cases, like when we were playing through Shenmue 1 and 2, we would cover the history of those games and how they shaped games that came after them. We also do Planet Coaster streams. We do streams where Mom reads from her young adult adventure novel, The Messenger of Ezra, that she wrote. We do streams where
when she was so after we found out I was sick with the kidney stuff, and we kind of got that to a point where it was under control, and I've been on dialysis a few years. I was doing home dialysis. I got tired of sticking needles in my arm, and so I tried peritoneal dialysis, and stuff kind of went haywire. And somehow, in either from a flu shot or a surgery or something, I ended up getting what's called Gyan Bray. And basically, if you've never heard of it, it's a nerve disorder where your immune system starts overreacting and thinks that your nerves are foreign invaders and eats your nerves. And for a healthy person, because it's like something like 0.03% of the population just gets it randomly, and a healthy person, within a week you're on a ventilator. Like, that's how quick it goes. But since my immune system's already compromised, it took a little bit longer for my immune system to kick my ass, but it did. And I was a quadriplegic for about 6 months, and they caught it and were able to reverse it. And I'm slowly getting my faculties back. This was in 2014. And so when I was in the hospital for 19 days, and then in an old folks home here in town for 2 months, and they had to get me to the point where I could use a walker and a slide board and learn how to function as a non-functional person, with non-functional legs and barely functional arms. And I had to really work to get the strength and all that back. But as my mom, she's incredible. I mean, the strength she has is amazing. But anytime I'm in the hospital, the whole time I was at the old folks home, she stayed with me. And when we got home, we rearranged our home so that she could be near me in case I needed anything, because I was still basically a quadriplegic for quite a while, even after we got home. And so we had the room we're sitting in now actually was mom's, and then the front part of the room over there, where Josh's bed is kind of behind me there, was my area. And mom was like telling us how she was like, I sat there going, I was going to go crazy and having nothing else to do, because she didn't, want to leave me alone most of the time. So she had her computer back here, and a few years ago, before this, she had started a story, and she always wanted to be a writer and to write self-help books, or somehow help teach children coping skills and stuff. She was a group home manager for 19 years, 17 years, and for kids in need of supervision or something like that. But yeah, either way. But so she had asked us about a story idea she had, and if we would be willing to help her write that story from the point of view of gamers, help her with continuity, help her with, battles, and, kind of be vicious to it, so that way she could get it as good as possible. And so she looked at that as her job while watching me. And she wrote the first book, and all three of us are incredibly proud of it. And she actually has written the sequel to it already, and then we're starting on the third one soon. But, so on Thursdays, we'll read Messenger of Ezra.
Yeah, she's reading parts of it until we complete the entire book. We're just past the halfway point now. And then Trevor also does specials sometimes, like 8-Bit Bites, where he teaches people how to cook, and with kind of a gamer slant. And then we did that test for 2 months, and they were like, you know what, we really love what you guys are doing. This is really awesome. So we are going to take your guys' channel and skip you past affiliate and just make you partner. And so we got partnered with them, and we're working with them on their education stuff. We are also working with local schools, including a high school and a college, on trying to get more esports going. For instance, a local college here, completely separate from us, is home to Montana's first collegiate college level. I've always typed out that word. I've never pronounced it, so I just realized I've never pronounced it before.
It happened on camera. That's okay.
Yeah. I just realized I always type it out and I can spell it. I just couldn't tell you how to pronounce it. But the first college level esports team in Montana. So we're working with all of them to try to raise awareness that this isn't just like, as some people say negatively, sitting in your basement doing nothing. It's like, no, it's involving storytelling. It's involving S.T.E.M. It's involving potential careers. And there's so much dynamic things you can do through gaming, and we love showing people how you can drive culture forward with it.
It doesn't matter what your passion in life is, it can intersect with gaming. Where Josh is an incredible writer, and obviously games need writers,
Mhm.
And he's also above and beyond that. He's just an incredible networker, and his ability to find people and lift them up and put them in the positions they need to be in is incredible. And so all of that mixed with gaming, he's a hell of a lead game designer. And then, like, for me, I'm an artist somewhat, but my hand drawn skills aren't quite to par for like industry level, but it's enough that Josh can say what he wants as an idea for me to get it drawn out somewhat, and then I can give that off to one of our other artists, and they can take it and push it to the point where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And then also, my big passion is wood and metalworking. And so I can, create props for us to use at shows and all, I've painted Josh's desk. I built him a arcade cabinet, like a bar top arcade cabinet, and so that we can show off different stuff on that. And so no matter what your passion is, it can intersect with video games.
Yeah, and for instance, we're in talks with Evil Controllers right now about. We just got a grant. We're going to hopefully use some of it to buy a controller from them that they take apart like DualShocks and then build controllers for people that have like cerebral palsy and that kind of stuff, so they can really only have motor function. And we're going to use that at different trade shows to show kids how you can adapt technology to the needs of different people. And that's why we built the arcade machine, is because it's going to be an accessibility arcade machine when we go to trade shows.
And then I'm currently in the process of building a big wooden controller and housing for the test buttons.
Yeah, because originally Evil Controllers sent us like an envelope full of just random loose buttons, saying, okay, these are the different kinds of buttons we use. You guys let us know what you think, and they just let us keep them. So we're like, well, let's build an exhibit out of them so people can come up and get a tactile feel and understand that this is what it takes to adapt something most of us use every day to the needs of someone who can't use it the way we use it.
Mm-hmm. That's, you guys just told me so much amazing stuff. I really love everything that you're doing as a foundation, both with the accessibility, with taking those buttons. Evil controller, I love them. I want one really bad. There's extra little paddles in the back. I have an Elite controller for the Xbox. I really want an Evil controller. So that's so cool that you're working with them specifically. I think they have the better one on the platform.
We got to meet their CEO at an accessibility conference that PlayStation invited us to.
Yeah,
last December.
Really?
Yeah. PlayStation introduced us to them, and like they're awesome people there. They're so, and it's one of those things too that even this year we're primarily PlayStation fans and we're PlayStation certified. Mm-hmm. But we went to a party at E3 that we were invited to by PlayStation, where we met the two of the women who were higher up in the development of the Xbox accessibility controller, and even they, like everyone there, was just with the attitude of, it's okay to compete on some things. But on this is not an area where we should all be competing. This is an area where we should all just be sitting down and listening, because we need to be addressing the needs of these people, not
telling them I'm addressing this need for you. I need to sit down and go, what need can I address for you?
Yeah, and so it was so cool to see that everyone was all agreed on this shared mission of let's make it so that gaming is for everyone. And
they gave us little pins of the
controller,
the Xbox accessibility controller.
Yeah. So it's cool, and Adam from Evil Controllers is just such an awesome dude. So we're happy to be working with him on that. And like when we met him, he had brought it wasn't functional because he just wanted to show Sony an idea, but he had a DualShock that he modified with like different tension for the sticks and different tension for the buttons, and then the little paddle, like kind of like the Xbox Elite, the little paddles underneath the, I don't know what
the hand grips,
like the lobes or hand grips, or So it was cool to see some of the different ideas, but for a cerebral palsy controller, they have to take it even further, because most people
deconstruct it.
Yeah, because most people with cerebral palsy can really only use one hand, so you have to make it so that pretty much everything is accessible on that side.
Mm-hmm. So if I get this right, then it sounds like you guys have been wildly busy over the last decade, as far as
and it's one of the things we tell people: it's not an overnight success. It's still in the sweat equity startup phase. Because we're working on our two games. Like the other game that we're working on Ingenium side is a smaller game that we're pitching to publishers soon. Mm-hmm. But we were going to have a phone call about it today, but it got pushed back. But it's a game called Burst, where you blow up fireworks to the beat of music. Cool. And we threw an educational slant in there where as you're blowing up the fireworks, you pull the triggers on the controller, and it changes the elements from the periodic table of elements, and that changes the colors of the explosions of fireworks, because that's how they actually make fire colors in real life. Is like, potassium is pink,
Copper is a bluish.
copper is bluish green, aluminum is silver, magnesium is white. So we wanted to show that you could, because our whole point with that is that we're not aiming it for classroom use. We want it to be played by normal gamers. But we're trying to make a statement, and we're by far not the only people, but we want to be part of the conversation that you can have real history or real STEM in games in ways that actually elevate the game experience, not as opposed to take a digital test and be rewarded with pinball,
No, I completely agree. I don't know if you know too much about the past of John and me, the owners of OPC, but we came from a Minecraft hosting company. So the integration of education and gaming is really core to our concepts, and one of the main reasons we want to interact with the community. With that, though, I understand a little bit about getting games into the classroom and some of the troubles. What made you decide as Little Big Planet would be the one that you would choose? I know you had the Foundation experience a little bit, but was it the game or was it your understanding of the game?
Kind of a combination of the two, because in one sense, since we already understood it, we could explain it to people. But the other side of it was, like, teachers, what we've noticed can be kind of intimidated by stuff that's a multi-step approach. Like, for instance, Minecraft, you can program for Minecraft, but you have to go learn source code. You have to go learn how to open up different programs to access the source code. Where Little Big Planet is it's self-contained, and you program through pictures. So you say, okay, well, I want it so that when the player walks through this area, something happens. So, okay, well, you go to this area, you pull out a picture of a player sensor, put it here, and then wire that player sensor to the event that you want to happen. And it looks like you're wiring on a circuit board. It looks natural. It makes sense. And so
it's basically OOP.
Yeah.
Object-oriented programming. And neither is better than the other. It's just that one is more of a first step versus, kind of jumping in the deep end.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, I think that coding should be taught in schools. But at the same point, I do believe that it's good to get people started on stuff like Little Big Planet first, where they develop the mentality of thinking like a programmer before they ever jump, into actually typing out source code.
I know that this work that you've been doing with Little Big Planets in the local communities, I'm not sure if the video I saw, if you were in a library or in a school specifically, but it seems like you're getting a nice interaction from the local community, physically going to people and playing these games. Can you tell me more about that side of your actions?
Yeah, like it took us a while to get traction at first, but especially once we started working in schools and people started seeing the value of it, we kind of hit that point where we got a nice amount of support from the community. We work with our rec center now. We do some work with museums in the area. We also work with our local college. And what we found out is that there is some people that will be kind of immediately like, hey, I'm kind of curious. I think I'll try working with you. There's some people that will just be immediately against it no matter what, because it has the word video games in it. And so those people, it's like, just be nice and respectful, but realize they ain't your crowd. Just go somewhere else.
And there's the one or two that is in that crowd that you can change, but
I was going to go on to that, but then the vast majority of people out there are kind of undecided, kind of uneasy, because they don't necessarily want something that's playing in place of learning, because they don't realize that play can actually be a vehicle for learning. But once they get in front of us and we do the pitch and show them, like, here's how Little Big Planet works, here's what it can do, like, oh my god, this is way more intense and in depth than I ever thought it was. It's like, yeah, exactly. And they walk away with a new appreciation, and you generally get new allies out of that, and you can move forward. And then it even dovetails into stuff where like we do work. Yeah, sorry, my phone was on vibrate. I forgot that it was on vibrate on top of a metal table. So it acted like a reverberator for it. But we dovetailed it into doing stuff like on Native American reservations, where we'll go to Plenty Coup High School, which is on the other side of Montana, and do a game design club with the kids. And they even got to the point where we had a pretty cool thing with them, where they created a Facebook private chat that we were in on. And so when we went to E3 this year, even though all the kids were on summer vacation and stuff, we were taking pictures on the show floor and giving them photos of what we were doing, and showing them photos of Sony's big event with Nike out in front of the show. And these kids, many of whom have never really stepped too far out of their town of maybe 100 people tops, we're getting to see an industry event up live and close and being able to ask questions about it. So it's so cool to be able to bring that to people, especially like, I mean, we're down with working with anybody. We love working with any and everybody, but it's especially fun and rewarding to bring the industry and the culture of gaming to people that generally don't get that chance.
You know,
Yeah, no, it's amazing work you're doing by actual like boots on the ground style, walking into the rooms and shaking hands and giving a presentation to 10 people. After 10 people,
yeah.
after 50 people, after, you know, and slowly watching the audience grow. It's impressively grassroots in your efforts. What made you decide to go at it from that angle?
Part of it was necessity. You know, being in Montana, we had to do it small town first.
we actually started off because not knowing how to raise capital. We started by me drawing and Josh coming up with statements for Smart Alec T-shirts.
Yeah, because we were trying to raise money that way. But part of that too was that, you know, the whole point that, you know, starting the way we did, where we had to go medically bankrupt.
Yeah.
We don't have credit, so we had to do everything, you know, sweat equity way. And
yeah.
as we were learning that and doing that, we just realized over and over again that, you know, we were using games to take our lives back, and we wanted to show other people that the positive, that can be in this art form. And it's like I said, that, you know, I really believe it's an art form for everyone. But I'm really happy to be hearing this conversation that's going on in the industry nowadays about especially diversifying, getting more women, people from minority backgrounds in gaming, because when we do camps and outreach programs, we'll get a positive reception from pretty much everyone. But people who generally have been counted out or told that they're not allowed in the crowd are ones that we generally get the best reaction from. Like whether it's kids that, you know, don't excel academically or in sports, or kids who are from backgrounds where, you know, where they're told, oh, this isn't your culture, this isn't for you. Especially, you know, on the side with girls, you know, we'll have girls just excel in our camp because they're finally getting told the message of this is for you too. Or kids, like I said too, from like Native American backgrounds. If you grow up on the reservation, you're basically kind of force fed this idea that stuff like tech education, oh, that's what they do in the big cities, you know, which by Montana standards, our idea of a big city is anything with more than 20,000 people, you know, so smaller by everyone else's standards. But you have to understand, like, rural and urban, whether you're talking about like a farm community or a reservation community, that's even smaller. And they're so used to hearing that tech opportunities for everyone else. I remember one time we were working with schools on a project, and a Native American student wrote us like a letter explaining to us what this kind of stuff can mean. And he said that even for you guys who live in Great Falls, which our city is 60,000 people, he said, even your world is a little bit different from mine. He said, for you guys, if you accidentally break a USB drive, it's like, oh, well, I'll just go to Office Max. You know, it's a 10-minute drive to and back. He said, for me, I have to plan a day around that because I have to figure out what city is nearest me, and I have to figure out, okay, what else should I be buying in that city while I'm there, and plan a whole day around it. So
I can't drive, so it was, you know, what day are my parents going into town? And
yeah, so like it's a whole thing of, especially through platforms like Twitch and YouTube, getting in front of kids that may not have these opportunities every single day, where they can see something live and not only learn about it, but especially hear the message, this includes you too, you're not counted out. That is so important.
I really enjoy what you're talking about and bringing it to these rural places that don't have access, because really all advancement in technology is just about access and getting things that we want faster. So you're literally filling that gap yourself. And I think that's so amazing. I really have a good question though, or I hope it's a good question. And then I know that you all were on road to greatness, and that your story was shared with PlayStation and you were officially acknowledged in a huge way. Video is amazing. We'll link it in the description to everybody can go watch. But your story is inspiring, and the way that you actually had an impact in your city really is in line with what you're talking about right now. And can you give me a little bit of a time frame, maybe, as far as how your ethos was developed? Did Sony bring their trailer out to you, bring E3 to you, because that's what you were doing for other people, or did that acknowledgement kind of guide your principles and kind of give you the inspiration to go out and do it yourself?
We were actually
it was crazy enough. The truck came while I was in the hospital for the first few days with the Gyan Bray, and so I hadn't even been diagnosed yet. But Josh had done a video because Sony had put up on the PlayStation blog asking for people to submit
Pitch
video.
their city.
Yeah, pitch your city. And Josh came up with a slogan almost immediately of "Bring greatness to the falls."
Yeah, so we had a hashtag going on, "Bring greatness to the falls." But we were already doing camps and doing our outreach. We had already been like the two primary like streaming methods that we speak to classrooms now is Twitch and streamable learning. Although we weren't on either of those platforms yet, we were on a different platform at that time. But we were already doing speaking and camp teaching, and that was included in our pitch, of course, to Sony that we were teaching all of this and that we're trying to help our city see that gaming can be a new kind of horizon for us. Because especially like with our generation, I was born in '83, Trevor was born in '89. Right before I was born, uh, there was this company that had been around forever and was the primary driver of jobs in our city called the Anaconda Mining Company, and they had this 500-foot tall stack, and
the brim of which at the top, it was so big that you could ride a stagecoach around the top.
yeah, it was a massive stack. It was huge.
Whoa.
And
For,
it had,
smelting.
and throughout the '70s, they had shrunk and shrunk and shrunk to the point where they were no longer existent. In 1980, the stack was blown apart with dynamite, and a lot of people kind of viewed that as the death knell of our city, and like, oh, all the good jobs are gone, all the dreams are blah blah blah, and we talked about in our pitch about how it affected you growing up here because you kept hearing people say, "Oh, the glory days are behind us." It's like, what if there's new ones? Why can't we go make something new? At one point, that stack wasn't there. At one point, those jobs weren't there. Someone had to come there and invent that. Let's go invent the next thing. Let's keep moving. And so we wanted to show the world that could be video games for our city. That our city could be kind of like the Park City of video games or whatever, like an indie development mecca. So we started working on that. We did the pitch on that to Sony, and we weren't sure how well we were doing in the competition. So we kept having people vote because the website didn't tell you where you were in the voting standing. Well, at the end of it, we found out two things. First of all, Sony told us privately that on the quality of our pitch alone, we were going to win no matter what. That they said everyone else was about here, you guys were here, and that was just on the quality of the pitch. And second of all, on the public vote, even though we were up against places like UCLA, New York, Boston, we actually had double the votes of second place. So
Whoa.
we won on both counts. So it was really cool.
Landslide victory for us.
And it was awesome to have that affirmation. And then they show up and they set everything up. And they are bummed as hell because it started raining that morning. And they were coming up to us going, "Guys, we are so sorry. It's pouring out. And we're still going to do it for you. But just fair warning, people never show up when this thing rains." And it turned out over 900 people showed, waiting an average of 2.5 hours in line in the rain to get on the truck. And it was one of the biggest turnouts they had ever had for a city that size. They were going and getting PlayStation branded ponchos and just handing them out down the line. And they were blown away.
Me being in the hospital had said that they weren't going to let me out for it. And I was devastated. And PlayStation waited for the doctor to leave the room, one of the people from PlayStation, and they said, "We'll get you out of here." So they went and rented a van and snuck me out.
Yeah, they rented a van with a wheelchair, and then they convinced the nurse to come along for medical safety. But
in the video, you see me in the wheelchair, and that's, if you look, when I'm holding the microphone, my hands are really, floppy, and they're really swollen on top. And I noticed it because it was me, probably. But it was an incredible day. It was such a blessing to have them come.
Yeah. And we're still friends with them.
And that video has done more goodwill for us than any other piece of propaganda we could have made.
Yeah. Well, because we tell people that, it's great that we won a PlayStation, we won the truck, but the biggest prize that has been the biggest payout for us from that was that video. Because anytime people are like, "So what exactly do you guys do?" We just link it. And we're like, "Here, 5 minutes of your time, you'll understand."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest nod of approval from one of the largest brands in gaming. I don't think it can get better. You can get different, maybe, but
you wouldn't think so. But that is by far and large the smallest thing Sony has done for us. They have been so good to us.
Yeah,
as a company that we strive to meet their excellence that they put forth in all of their products. We try to strive for that as well, and also we strive to be a PlayStation certified studio, which we are. And we're actually the first PlayStation certified studio in Montana, which was pretty cool, and we're also the second PlayStation certified studio in Montana.
Got certified twice.
But they like whenever we go out to events with them, they will make sure that we're doing okay, especially since I had the wheelchair for many years. You know, I still take my wheelchair to big events like E3 and PSX. Too many people.
Yeah.
But so they'll make sure that, you know, I have any access I need, and as well as anyone else, sure. But you know, I mean, they send us to parties. They like when they found out about our Little Big Planet Club outreach stuff, they actually sent us 10 TVs and 10 PS3s and 10 Little Big Planet 3 game discs, just so that we could continue doing what we were doing.
Yeah, and every once in a while, every few months, we'll get a random box on the doorstep it'll be from PlayStation with just a note of find good homes for this stuff, and they'll have cleaned out a swag box, swag closet or whatever, and just send us a bunch of stuff to get to kids in the camps.
Like one time they sent us 5 God of War Blood Red PS3s, like the special edition God of War PS3.
Wow.
And we had a few kids that were taking the camp that were not able to buy PlayStations.
Very economically challenged households, and
yeah, and so
cool.
We gave one to. Well, we had one kid that time.
Yeah,
and we gave it to him, and he cried and cried and cried. Man, it was just like you'd have thought we gave him $1 million.
Yeah,
and his mom was just boo-hooing. His dad was just beaming with pride, you know, and it was because the kid had done such an amazing job throughout that week of the camp. Well, actually 2 weeks of camp, I think, on that one.
Yeah, he was a 2-weeker.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks back to back, and he did a phenomenal job. And the crazy thing is he wasn't a kid that you would normally associate with like hyper intelligent or sports. You know, he was just kind of a nerdy kid. You know, he was kind of I don't want to say simple because that's not right. You know, he was just not. He was your average kid that would have normally been looked over for something like this. So when we were able to give that to him, his family was just blown away, and he really excelled at the class.
Yeah, and the nice thing too is that the fun part about that package is Sony, instead of using packing material, they just used a bunch of Uncharted 4 T-shirts that they had left over. And it turned out that time too that they just got done adding that patch to Uncharted 4 that added 3D positional audio. And we have friends that run a group called Over Here Consulting. It's actually founded by one of my high school buddies who, right after graduation, due to type 1 diabetes, he went blind. So he had lost his eyesight at like 20, maybe 19.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started a counseling firm that helps businesses be more accessible and empathetic to low vision and blind people. And he knew this high schooler that had been blind since birth that wanted to play a PlayStation game. I'm like, well, dude, you know, the Uncharted 4 just added 3D positional audio. So we did a team up and did a job shadow for the kid where we like gave him some basic instruction, turned on some accessibility features inside of Uncharted, like auto aim and all that stuff. And he was able to play Uncharted for the first time ever because of the 3D positional audio, and he could know where the bad guys were at and know what to do with them. And we gave him an Uncharted shirt saying, Sony sent us this. This is a shirt from what you just played. And it was just a mind-blowing experience for him.
Yeah.
How special. How often do you get to do moments like that?
A couple times a year.
A couple times a year we get some really cool. One is we just got invited to 2 months ago, go to Spokane Children's Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
They had their 15th birthday bash, and they asked us to come out and demo PlayStation VR for their birthday party. So we set up PlayStation VR units. Like, I don't think they pack it in anymore, but they used to pack in the PlayStation VR set this disc called PlayStation VR Worlds, and it had like 5 short stories in VR. One of them is a shark dive. And
where they put you in the cage, and you go down, and you see the coral reef all the way down, and then you can do a version without the shark attacking, and then there's one where the shark attacks and rips the cage apart and you barely make it out.
But so we did a day once where we had one of our camper kids play it while another camper kid and Trevor were taking measurements on the screen
and drawings
of the cage, and he actually recreated the cage out of PVC pipe, and we bring it to events so people have to climb the cage, shut the door, put the headset on,
and that way they have something to hold on to while they're playing. Because at our college, they had asked us to do a day where they were showing off like some of their after high school learning programs.
Lifelong learning.
Thank you, lifelong learning program. And they asked us to come be kind of the entertainment for the night and show off what we do. And there was a teacher, I'm assuming a gal, that was probably about 55, 60, and she did the shark dive. And when the shark attacked the cage, she launched herself out of a little chair that they were letting us use. That was just a cheapy chair, like the ones that stack, at like conference halls and stuff. And I'm going, oh my god, her hip, and Josh goes, oh my god,
Yeah.
so I was like, yeah, we definitely need to get better chairs. So we actually found these folding chairs.
Very wide,
They're
low.
really wide, low, have a 300-pound capacity. They're beautiful chairs. And actually, a bank here in town sponsored them for us, so they got them for us. Or one of them, both of them.
Yeah, Embark sponsored both of them.
Yeah, so both. And so we have nice chairs. And then when I built the cage, I built it so that the chair would fit perfectly in the cage. And so
that way, it gives some stability, and also like when we'll do events where they'll have like kids showing up. Like they sometimes do an event here called S.T.E.M Expo where it's all sorts of educational stuff, and we'll have kids lined up for 45 minutes to an hour for their turn in the cage. So and
it's an 8-minute demo, so
yeah.
You figure that's how long that line is.
Yeah, and so it's just so much fun to do this stuff, and we just actually got a donation from Bionic with these. Like they're basically headphones that you clip onto make a trade. Yep, I got them in view. Yeah. You clip them onto PlayStation VR so we can get kids in and out faster. So that way you don't have to hand them the headset and then hand them a pair of headphones. It's all put on with one simple motion. Because we're trying to we have 4 headsets that we can run if we need to. We usually do 3, but we have access to 4, so we can.
2 of which are our personal.
Yeah, for big events we can run kids pretty quickly, but we're trying to do as much as possible to do more education with it. And then we'll do job shadows for the school system where we'll do even longer VR demos. Like we had one kid for 3 hours doing a virtual tour of Chernobyl, like the exclusion zone around it. And it's just so cool to have all these schools and community groups acknowledge that gaming can be a positive part of this and see that it actually is turning results and having awesome impact like that.
Guys, what you're doing is amazing, and it sounds like you're having a lot of fun doing it. I can see the passion in your eyes and your voice from what you're doing. But I have some questions about a little bit about how you're doing it. We talk about a little bit of the VR and building the frames, and that first in-person experience is, I think, one of the coolest current experiences you can get. I know they're building some warehouses to be similar to Overmesh, so I love that you're doing that and bringing it to people. That's just really exciting. But you keep mentioning all of these partnerships that you have. This college here, this school there, this hospital here. You're mentioning the bank sponsored your chairs. How are you doing this? I know Josh said, or Trevor said that Josh is relatively good at really good at networking.
He's a savant.
It sounds... Is that where this is coming from?
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, I missed the question. What?
Sorry, no. So my question roughly is, how are you getting these types of partnership connections for your 501(c)(3).
Okay, so really quickly, you guys know what The Walking Dead is, I assume, right?
Yes.
Oh, this is an old story. Yeah. For the record, I haven't spoken to this person in years. I don't know if he would remember me.
But, okay, so just a quick way to show you how good Josh is at networking, I have a quick 3-story setup. So, first of all, The Walking Dead, you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And so, Daryl, the one that had the crossbow in the beginning?
Norman Reedus.
Character is Daryl, and the actor is Norman Reedus. He was also in The Boondock Saints, right? Back in the day. Him and another guy, Patrick Flannery.
Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah, Sean Patrick Flannery. So Josh and I loved that movie, The Boondock Saints, and so Josh, when he likes something, he will go Google it and find out more information on it and anything he can to expand his knowledge base about it. Yeah. Looking on one of the pages for it, he saw a link to Norman Reedus's personal production website, and then at the bottom of that was Norman Reedus's email. So Josh said to himself, what's the worst he can do? Say no?
Or not reply at all.
Or not reply at all, So Josh sent him an email, and you can kind of explain how you go about sending an email.
Well, so I email saying, hey man, big fan, here's who we are, here's what we do. And he and I ended up talking back and forth on email for a while, and he was a really nice guy, and he had us mail his a couple copies of the Boondock Saints that we had, and I think we had the sequel at the time too, to him, and he signed them and sent them back, and we haven't spoken for years since. So it was one of those things.
But at the time, he was like, "Hey, so if you guys are making a game, can I see some of your guys' concepts?" And Josh showed him one of our bad guys, and he was like, "Dude, when you guys get up and running, you have to let me play him." But
for the record,
that to him. But
I doubt he would remember. But we hyperventilated at the time. But I want to stress, I would doubt that he would remember.
One of those stories of how much Josh does for the company in the side of networking. And then another one, very similar way of happening, is the Chronicles of Narnia, written by C.S. Lewis. His stepson, right?
Yeah, I don't really publicly say this one a lot because he's kind of a private person, but...
Sorry.
So I'll say this, but edit this part out, but I'll tell you since we halfway said it, so just edit it out of the public part.
Yeah.
But I once read an article about a speech that C.S. Lewis's stepson, Douglas Gresham, gave at a high school, and I really agreed with a lot of what he said, and I ended up meeting a guy who had spent a year with him, and that guy, he introduced me to him, and Douglas Gresham and I have been friends for about a decade now. And, or he had us mail him a bunch of Narnia stuff, too. The place he lives right outside of Greece. And he signed them and mailed them back, and he and I were talking on email the other day about how exciting it is that he's signing with Netflix and doing that stuff, but this part I do need to edit it out because he's very private, and I don't want. I haven't gotten his permission to blast that out there yet.
Understandable.
So let me.
I'm making notes right now.
The end of the Norman Reedus part then, because I have one more anecdote about this, and then Josh can take over. So yeah, that's how Josh became friends with Norman Reedus all those years ago. Not that we would ever hold him to being friends now, because it's been so long.
Yeah, and I doubt he'd remember.
Yeah, I doubt it. But the guy was so nice. And then the one that's actually very pertinent to the game industry side is Josh saw on some blog or website back when there was a lot of hate between fanboys of the different systems, like the PS3 and 360. And he saw a letter written to the editor by a guy named I'm not even sure of the guy's name anymore, but and I probably shouldn't say it anyway. But so he was a guy that worked at Insomniac, and Josh liked the letter that the guy wrote. So Josh saw his email at the bottom again and wrote him an email saying, "Hey man, thought you did a really good job on that letter. I really appreciated your point of view. Thanks for saying what we're all feeling. And, here's my contact info." And waited, and the guy got back to him, and they made a friendship. And after a while, the guy one day just happened to ask Josh for Josh's phone number.
Yeah, and I thought nothing of it. I'm like, well, whatever. He already has my other contact info. Here you go.
Yeah, and so, I don't know, probably a month later, not even, Josh was walking through the house, his phone rings, he answers it and goes, "Hello," and then he hears from the other end of the line, "Hi, Josh, this is Ted Price, President and CEO of Insomniac Games. I was wondering if I could speak to you for a few moments about giving you some pointers on how to get started."
I about hit the damn floor.
Wow.
And he gave us some pointers on how to get more moving, and then he critiqued our Shattered Soul logo. If you look at the logo for Shattered Soul, it's on our website, and it has this metal chevron underneath it. And we used to have angel wings coming off of it, and he was like, "Just FYI, my personal opinion is it's too busy. Either keep the wings or the chevron, but ditch one of the two." And we're like, "Okay, you know what? That's actually right." And then when we actually followed his advice on it, it made it much better. So nice. Our logo for our fighting game is tweaked in part because of a suggestion from Insomniac.
Yeah. So, and when we finally got to meet Ted Price in person, when we started going to E3, he remembered us. And, it was just one of those things that I think the biggest thing you have to remember, and this will be my end of my part on the networking thing and what I've learned over the years of going to different shows and getting in contact with different people and whatever, is nobody's little. I mean, everybody has a point in their life where they're doing the crap job, or they're on the, SHIT end of the stick. Mm. So, don't ever treat anybody like crap. Mm-hmm. Everybody is worthwhile. Everybody is important. And you never know who is going to be that second degree of separation that gets you something you need or something you want. And you never know when somebody's going to become that first degree of separation that you need or want, or they can help you. So
yeah, and with that, we're just going out in the community constantly, both locally and in the industry, and telling people, okay, here's what we're doing, here's what we want to do, here's what we need to do it, and they will help us find grant opportunities or where situations like where that bank gifted us $80 to get the 2 chairs, and we can piece together stuff and create, the materials we need to go out and impact kids. We're always looking for more opportunities and like for our 2 games where, like I said, hunting down publishing deals right now. Burst is further along of the 2 games, so Burst is much more into the pitching stage, where Shattered Soul, we're still polishing our fighting prototype. We actually got invited to a fighting game tournament here in Montana called the Fall Brawl, where we're going to be debuting a new public build of it later this month, like the weekend before Halloween.
which should be really fun.
Yeah, but the thing of it is just realizing that if you want to be an entrepreneur in this industry, and I'm sure you know this too, Seth, you're on the job 24 hours a day. Like, I've had people crack up at me about it because I'm big into rides and roller coasters, and I was at our fair, and our fair used to have one of those drop towers where they pick you up and drop you. And I'd been talking to this girl online for months, and she's like, "Man, I want you to meet my boyfriend. He's really into gaming. He would really love to hear more about you." And as it turned out, I got off this 70-foot drop. I'm walking down the stairs, and she's walking up, dragging her boyfriend. Like, "This is the guy I want you to meet." I immediately pulled out my business cards, handed him a business card, did a pitch, and he's like, "Did you just do an elevator pitch after dropping 70
off
feet?"
an elevator?
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you have to be ready. Any minute, you could have to explain who you are and what you do, and you may only have 30 seconds to make it count.
Yeah. And I guess ultimately the biggest thing with networking is dignity and respect. It's something we try to model constantly with ourselves, and it's also something that we constantly try to teach to our students that we teach with personal branding and the dignity and respect of it all, and just making like a big one is in the industry, business cards are a plethora. You've always got to have them on you, and you're going to be getting a lot from other people. And when it comes to politeness on things like business card etiquette, go to the people who are the most extreme in your industry with rules. That's what you do. You see
tightest rules.
Yeah, the tightest rules. So the Japanese are very respectful in the way that they deal with a business card. It's almost like a living being. They hand it,
you treat it like a gift.
They bow. Yeah. You take it from them, you bow, and then you read it, and you treat it with respect, because that business card has their information on it. That information is personal, and if they're taking the time to give it to you, they want you to see it, they want you to know it, and they want you to use it. So
don't just slide it in your back pocket and walk it away. Why? Like, actually accept it, read it, show appreciation for it.
Yeah, and so if you take that level of care when you're dealing with someone from New Jersey, it's no matter what, you're gonna all the way across the board. Not necessarily that New Jersey is bad. I just picked somewhere that wasn't Japan. That was America. But yeah, either way, you'll be clear across the board as long as you take the respect that everything needs and give the respect that others deserve.
So clearly, good etiquette goes a long way, and your
long.
consistency and boldness and your ability to be on point and on demand has been very valuable for you. But in addition, there has to be programs. I know in the beginning you said you went down to the Entrepreneur Center of your local city, and a woman gave you a large packet of things to go through, and kind of you got trained a little bit in this entrepreneurship, so to speak. How much of that, has really played a part in where you're going now, and kind of these techniques that you're using to get out there? I know a lot of people. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that a lot of people have centers like this, and they could probably learn a lot from how you leveraged it.
Small business development centers definitely help a lot. It helps if you find a champion too, because Rebecca, once she saw we were, that basically her litmus test. Just she gives it to every small business that comes in, and it's generic. And it was the whole point is, to find out if someone's really dedicated to do the work, of running a small business. But once she saw that we were dedicated and we got it done in less than half the time she expected, she went and studied the game industry and then started having a conversation with us on how to move forward. and suggested some books to us, and some other people have suggested books to us too. The two biggest ones I would highly recommend to people is Guy Kawasaki's The Art of the Start, and then there's a guy out of Montana named Rob Ryan who wrote a book called Smart Ups. It's SMARTUPS, all one word. And both of those are really good at helping you shape and figure out what you're doing. Because so many people have this idea of, oh, I want to start a game studio, or I want to be a game publisher, or I want to start a publication for games. But they don't think out all the steps, and the steps could include, making sure that you watch out for your employees, making sure that you figure out, like in the words of Rob Ryan, what makes you a polka-dotted zebra? And what he means by that is that, if you see how zebras run in the wild, all their stripes blend together, and that's actually designed to fool predators and stuff. But it makes it hard for an individual to stand out from a pack the way a polka-dotted zebra would stand out from the pack. So basically figure out what makes you stand out in our case, and that helps you shape what is called your elevator pitch, where you do that 30-second just mic drop of this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is why it matters. And in our case, developing the education side became part of our polka dottedness. And then the other part of it is that, we especially push ourselves to people who were alive in the 90s. I mean, we, definitely click with younger gamers too. But especially with their parents who are gamers in the 90s and 80s, we, push ourselves on the fact of we appreciate some of the newness that modern technology has brought in games, like with DLC and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we don't think that using things like DLC or microtransactions should be a crutch or an excuse not to release a full game. You should still have secrets in your game. It should still be
on disc built in.
Yeah, it should still be a complete experience start to finish. It shouldn't feel like you have to pay $60 to get your foot in the door and then pay another $60 to get what would have been a complete experience 10 years ago or 20 years ago. We want to release a full game and have any DLC be an accent to it, not a completion of it. And so a lot of people go, oh my god, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And then with younger crowds, once we let them get hands-on with our games, both of which are in playable prototype, they just immediately click with it too and go, oh my god, this is so much fun. So we connect with them on a different level.
And then it doesn't hurt being from Montana.
yeah, and especially in the industry side, we become known as the Montana guys. So
or the Montana boys.
What was originally kind of a
crutch?
No, a hurdle.
Oh,
what was originally kind of a hurdle to us, it became a branding point because we own the uniqueness of it. We know of one other studio in the state, and they're kind of working on mobile stuff. So, we have a kind of wide range to own that. So,
and I just wanted to add too, back how you were saying that dignity and respect are kind of cornerstones of what we teach and what we use and what is important to be used in the industry as to get further with contacts and stuff. 2014, oddly enough, was the first year that our mom went with us to E3. We drug her along and made her go with. And she was like, guys, I really don't think I'm going to enjoy it. I enjoy, talking with you guys about the stuff, and I understand it, but I just don't think I'm going to enjoy the show floor. She had the best time. Like, she earned her nickname within the first 2 hours of the first day, because Josh and I had to leave her for a few hours the first day to go to meetings, and we had one of our guys taking her around, and he plopped her in the line for Disney Infinity and took off. And so she got bored of waiting, so she said to the person in front of her and the person behind her, hold my spot, I'll be right back, I'm going to go look for swag, and then when I get back, you guys go.
And she started
a ripple effect of people doing this down the line, and people would be able to go and get more stuff as and come back. So by the time I finally get to go meet her, and she's, probably 5'5", bright red hair, and she is beet red, just dripping sweat. She's got 3 or 4 top hats on top of her head and 2 bags that go from her armpit to the floor, just chock full of stuff. And I come walking up, and all these kids are there that me and Josh have known for years that she just randomly ran into and made friends with also. So I walk up, and I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? And how do you know Swag Mama, Trevor? And I was like, she gave birth to me, guys.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that's crazy. And so because of what she was doing with that, she earned the name Swag Mama from all
That's
these
a great
kids.
name.
So that's now her moniker.
Yeah.
And so, but on the dignity and respect side, part of that was that, but also the bigger part was me and Josh had been going to E3 for, I don't know, 7 years. We figured out 6 years.
Yeah, that was the 6th year for her first year.
Yeah. So we had already made a lot of friends in Sony, especially in other studios too. But so on the days where me and Josh, mom, and I were able to hang out together and go together, we would go over to Sony side, and at least once every hour, someone would stop her and say, "Let me tell you about your boys and the dignity and respect they show and why it's so important." She cried the whole second and third day because she was so happy, and it's because of her that she instilled those virtues in us when we were young, and she always made sure that we were polite when we were young and always show dignity and respect to your elders, even if they don't deserve it. You can come home and vent to me, but always be respectful out in the community, always show your best foot forward. Best foot forward. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, put your best foot forward and stuff. And so now that we're adults, we truly appreciate what she did for us by teaching us all of that. And I would say that that's probably one of the biggest things that's gotten us to where we are and gotten us the acclaim that we have and everything, is that we show everyone the same dignity and respect.
Really like that you say that. There's someone who I follow a lot called Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's known as the wine guy online, but he's a social entrepreneur. Well, he's an entrepreneur. He runs a media company, and he's inspirational speaker basically. And he goes off a lot on the concepts that you said, that being good, like it's kind of like an ROI on behavior, and the value, or not even really to see it as an ROI, but more or less that the return on being a good person, that like in this modern day, that with the extra awareness that we have, the extra video and recording, and people can take a screenshot of something you said offhand on a bad day, whatever it is, being a good person has never been more important to success. And that bad people are being exposed slowly and consistently. And so that core behavior seems to be your strength is, I don't think, a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's really impressive to see.
One of the craziest things about it too is that online culture for a short time actually was promoting the douchebags of the industry. A lot of these people that were raunchy and rude and crude and cruel, that was not only the norm but celebrated almost like a gladiator or something, for a while. And I see now that there's been a shift. The tide is turned, and those people are not getting, they rocketed up in popularity, but they rocketed right back down because people realize that if it might be funny to watch it in a video, but when it starts turning on you, it's not funny anymore, and they turned on them. And when you're a shock rocker, to get your audience that new shock value every time, so they don't get bored, you have to step that level up a little bit every time, and eventually it gets to a point where it's crossing a line.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy to see that our culture is starting to be more focused, like laser focused on like trying to get more women in the industry, trying to make sure that, at cons, cosplayers aren't accosted, trying to make sure that people are protected from that kind of thing, because it's, we all do stupid stuff when we're kids, but that doesn't make it okay. And we're all adults now. We need to start really checking ourselves and making sure that we model the behavior that we want our kids to take on. And I know I don't have kids yet, but when I do have kids, I know I don't want them to think that it's okay to, use racial slurs, or it's okay to, berate women for not being real gamers, or, anything like that. So I think it's so important to model true and healthier behaviors.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's more than just words to you guys too. I saw some of your videos online when you're discussing the prototype of one of your games, and I think you even reinforced the feedback you got from a girl gamer about a battle component that was she was an equal level competitor.
Yeah, like that was at Great Falls Gaming ago. We didn't even have Shattered Soul really playable yet. I mean, it was playable-ish, but we weren't comfortable even letting people get hands-on with it yet, so we just showed a video of it. And we showed a picture of our character, Haya, who is, she's kind of a circus owner and roller derby type chick. And she's kind of our answer to what, I mean, this style of storytelling shows up in all sorts of stories, but I reference it in Harry Potter because everyone knows it, so I call it the Harry Potter problem. And what it is that when you hear stories like Harry Potter, you think about how magical and whimsical it is, but it's only because you're really only hearing an in-depth story from someone who was born special. That world would be very boring and mundane if you were born a muggle. If you were born someone who wasn't magical, wasn't special, you're only ever hearing about the special people. And that's not a rip on J.K. Rowling. It's a common problem that pops up in a lot of media. I just use Harry Potter because a lot of people can understand and relate to that. So we decided that, in the world of Shattered Soul, some people are born with superpowers. And so we're like, well, what would that problem look like in our world? If someone was born completely normal, how would they cope and address the fact that they live in a world that some people have powers they don't? Haya was our answer to it. And Haya, she puts on these gloves that have metal strike plates on the fingers, and she can go like that and create sparks. And so she'll take fireworks, light it, and then throw it at her opponent, and she invented her own superpower around fireworks.
Or she'll put an artillery shell in their chest and trip them on it, and then they'll
blast them up. And so that was our answer to it, that, they wouldn't just say, well, I guess I'm not special. They'd go, well, no, I'm going to invent my own superpower then. And when we did this we were giving a round table on it at the Great Falls Gaming Rendezvous. This woman stood up in the crowd and goes, I'm going to buy a PlayStation just to play as her. And like that, she just loved it that we designed her with a suit that looked good on her, but wasn't, like
sexual.
For instance, with her breasts, each individual breast wasn't bigger than her head, which is
helpful.
That'd be called the eye problem.
yeah. Because I love Soul Calibur, but my God, if I knew someone like Ivy in real life, that every few years that a section of her body got bigger and bigger, I'd be like, you need to go to a doctor. There's something wrong.
But they're tumors.
It's like one of those things that,
seriously, that whip sword, I cannot believe she hasn't given herself a mastectomy.
Well, yeah, but you can get away with the whip sword though because it's magical.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's one of those things, and it's sad because I actually really love her as a character.
Her style is awesome in the game. Is like the fighting style.
Yeah, it's just that.
Story.
But it's just that when we went to design our characters, we were going with initially the attitude of especially with female characters, that we wanted to give female fighting game players like their Ryu or their Ken, because it's like as guys we've had tons of male fighting game characters that we could pick from that. Oh man, it'd be fun to cosplay as them. Where women don't really have that many that aren't hypersexualized for a presumed male audience. It's like not
especially sorry to interrupt, but especially here in Great Falls, Montana, where during the time of the year where cosplay is most prevalent, Halloween for us, that it can get up to 5 below sometimes if we have a bad winter.
A bad winter, yeah. Most of the time it's about 30 degrees, but still cold enough that you would want skin cover if you're going out trick or treating at night.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that we wanted to do, things that give female gamers the same kind of options that us male gamers have. And then, with the race side of it, that was a total accident because we were just like, we want characters from around the world because Shattered Soul takes place in a world different from ours, but we wanted it to feel like our world in the sense that there's all these different cultures. And so we borrowed from different cultures to create all these different characters.
Even though we're just doing a fighting game, we actually have a drawn world map.
Like an RPG style world map that we invented for this world. And so we ended up getting invited to the Pactor party this year at E3, which we know we've gotten invited for a couple of years. And we were talking about all this with Hip Hop Gamer, and he brought us over to his friend, who had another friend with her, and they're all going through our concept art, flipping through it, and they're looking at all these characters that a couple of whom are white, and then a couple of whom are there's one that's Pacific Islander, there's a couple Asian, then there's both male and female characters that are African American. And they were just gaga over it, and they were like, thank you so much for having characters of all colors in your fighting game. And it didn't for it was like, oh well, thank God, because that was kind of a lucky accident, because for us it was just attitude of, like I said, we just wanted it to look worldly. We wanted to be sure that we were showing that this is a big, wide, expansive world, not a localized world, you know.
Yes,
But that, you know, clicked in my head again. Well, it's just like the thing with, you know, with female gamers, that so many people get told that this isn't your culture, you don't belong here. But opening up that acceptance, opening up that inclusion, just so radically changes it. And their input on it helped me see our art differently. So it was really cool.
And I whenever Josh posts on Facebook about political issues and things of, you know, racial issues, social justice, anything like that, I always say that he, first of all, is an incredibly articulate writer and does a beautiful job. And secondly, I always tell people I hate getting in fights with him because you can't win. You know, always got his damn reasonings so well done that it's like, I'll be back in 30 minutes. Let me go research this.
Yeah.
You know?
I bring more receipts than CVS.
Yeah, exactly. But finally, I also say every time pretty much that he stands in the gap. He has always been the one who stands in the gap for those who have had their voices stolen. He will stand up for you and fight for you. It doesn't matter if you're the same creed, the same religion, the same colors, same anything. If you're someone who is being victimized, Josh will be there to stand for you. And even friend or foe, you know, I mean, we've had people that, you know, we don't necessarily like or, you know, whatever, but they've been victimized somehow, and Josh was right there for them. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And Josh is so black and white on that issue that it is almost like superhero-esque in my eyes to see Josh, stand up for people, because he really is the epitome of justice on that, social justice, and it's really cool. And I think it trickles down through our team and our teaching to kids. You know, I've had him and my mom as my role up, and I couldn't have had two better role models, because I mean, Josh on that side and then mom on the side of, you know, she's always emotionally been there for me, and, you know, she always makes sure that I'm okay, you know, so the mama bear side of it, and then Josh for the worldly view of it.
Yeah.
And so it's just, we make an incredibly tight-knit team.
Yeah, and then our staffers that work with us do a really amazing stuff too. And like I said, it was so cool because, you know, we're just sitting together, like, trying to figure it out, you know, that, like, well, we want to borrow bits and pieces, but we don't want to do it from, like, a negative appropriation side, but more from a respectful, loosely inspired by side. And we wanted to make sure that it felt worldly. And like I said, just to go in there and have people from a totally different background than me look at our art and, like, basically give us the affirmation of, I feel represented here, I feel seen here. It was like, okay, cool. I wasn't even fully intending that. It's so cool to see that just in rough concept art form, it's already achieving such a positive and strong and good emotional connection. It's like, that was it was like my moment of E3 this year. Like, it was just a random minor conversation for most people, but for me it was like, okay, this just totally made my show, you know. And
I just become so apparent that you guys have an unusual of empathy and awareness, I feel, about what you're doing. It's kind of ironic that you're saying that that E3 moment was the realization that you weren't aware of this dynamic nature that you had somehow subconsciously created of your game, when in fact you guys have been expressing incredible awareness, both of you, as far as the way that you're acting, the way that it's impacting, and the way that it guides your actions. I have a question before I get to the next part briefly, but what is your time breakup at this point? It sounds like you do a huge amount of involvement in the community. You're still doing development stuff. You have Addatudez, you have Ingenium, you have Team Kaizen. What is sort of your breakup of time, and how kind of like what are you guys working on a normal basis?
Especially
24/7.
Yeah, 24/7. Especially nighttime now is primarily Twitch time, since we are live 7 p.m. every night. You know, sometimes it's with pre-recorded videos, but even when it's with a pre-recorded video and our cat Renegade,
special guest cat.
she has to get in on the show.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
even our lighting.
even if it's like with a pre-recorded video, we're still live in the chat just to moderate.
Mhm.
So nighttime is Twitch time. Throughout the day, I'm primarily a writer on staff, so I've been doing a lot of business plan writing, and I do both story and business plan. But
haven't had a chance to do much story yet.
Yeah, because the story stuff we have is all pre-story. Because right now we're focused on the gaming side of it. Because you build out your prototypes first.
Like
Mhm.
Josh in teaching has this thing that we call play too pretty, where you make it ugly but playable, so it's fun first,
Function first.
and then you add all the pretty. Fix it.
So right now, a lot of it is I'll be working with our programmers and artists, and we'll be like, okay, well, here's what we want for a new build of Shared Soul. Here's how we tweak the current build to get there. They'll tweak it, hand off the build to me, and I will, sit there and play it for a while, taking notes of, okay, well, this punch animation needs to be just a little bit longer, or this special move needs to be a little bit easier to pull off. And the same thing with Burst, too, that we have a programmer, an artist, and a sound engineer working on it right now. That the sound engineer is going through. Like, we actually have a whole separate tool that was programmed for us that allows us to make the beats that the players respond to in game. So we have to take the songs that we're using into that program, attach the beats to them, and then bring all of that into the game.
Cool.
And then they'll send it to me, and I'll test it. And right now, our litmus test, which we'll probably get as we get closer to launch on it, we'll probably get another even more musically inclined person involved in playtesting. But right now, our litmus test is that the hardest difficulty has to present a significant challenge to me, but I have to be able to beat it. Because one thing that we get frustrated with is when people release stuff that maybe that they themselves couldn't beat, like they expect you to pull off something for like a trophy in the game or whatever that maybe they really couldn't do, or that it took them months and months and months of learning to do. So, for instance, like with the upcoming release of Media Molecules Dreams, one thing that they said that I thought was fairly intriguing, which I don't know if this is going to actually get fully included or not, but it's in talking, that they're thinking of taking Mario Maker's idea. You won't be allowed to publish a level unless you yourself can complete it. That you need to be able to show that it's a doable challenge, that it's not something that you just made something ridiculously hard and then said, oh, well, it's quote unquote like Dark Souls or something as an excuse for not balancing it, testing it, because people can say that all they want, but I haven't played Dark Souls personally, but I've played Bloodborne all the way through and platted it, and technically twice because I helped him plat his file. But with games like Bloodborne, for instance, it's hard as hell, but there is still balancing it. They still went through and figured out how much hit damage should a bad guy's hit do, how much should how much health should you have, how much health can you earn, how long can you make that bar. So when kids come into our camp and they want to make stuff, for a while we did have a trend, although I've noticed this trend kind of peter off a little bit, but for a while kids wanted in our game design camps just to make a ridiculously hard level and say it was Dark Souls inspired. And so we were like, well, you have to balance that. You can't just make something ridiculously hard and then use that as your cop-out excuse, because at that point that's not balancing. You're not actually doing the work, and they actually did do the work in those games, even though they're ridiculously hard. So, and that was kind of a whole side tangent to your question. But so a lot of my day is spent, checking our business plan, doing networking, sending emails, testing the builds. Right now we're under the gun, for Fall Brawl to get new builds of Burst and Shattered Soul ready for the show there. And then upgrading our VR units, because like I said, I got the headphones I need to snap onto them, and probably later today. Working on a grant right now with MSU Bozeman, which is Montana State University, that we got awarded a National Science Foundation grant to study how games like Little Big Planet and Dreams can get kids to view themselves as engineers and problem solvers. So I am doing pre-work on that for them. Like they've asked me to build some tools inside of Little Big Planet that could potentially act as things like speedometers and G-force readouts, so kids could build different machines and then just attach a little microchip to what they're working on. And that microchip will feed information to a little monitor and tell them, here's how fast it went, here's how the G-forces work. So I've been playing around with programming on that and got it mostly working. I will probably show that on stream at some point soon. I just wanted to get it a tiny bit more refined before I try to explain it in depth to people. I mean, I'd say it's about 90% the way there right now, but yeah.
Exciting. No, it's the kind of lifestyle a lot of people dream of, I'm sure. Playing games, building your company. planning it all out yourself and making it happen. The question I have, I guess, a little bit of structure. Are you mostly grant based? Then I take it as a 501c.
Right now, yes, we are looking for funding for our fight for Shared Soul and Burst, which would not be grant, of course. But right now, especially for our education side, we're pretty much primarily grant based.
That's so
we have
awesome.
grants from, like I said, MSU Bozeman National Science Foundation. We've been supported by Child's Play charities a couple of times, as well as a bunch of smaller grants from groups including Montana Girls STEM Collaborative, Embark Credit Union, and a couple others.
Well, we've donated to Child's Play for about 4 years now through both of our companies. So, and even for my birthdays, I don't get money. I just ask people to donate to Child's Play. So I hope at least one of my dollars made it to you.
Oh, I'm sure. And they are awesome people. Like we absolutely, actually, that charity event that we did in Spokane at their children's hospital, that was set up by Child's Play because Child's Play introduced us to them.
Oh, really? Well, if you ever have a chance to talk to Child's Play, let them know that we too. Apparently, I found this new loophole through talking to Origin PC. They work really closely to St. Jude, and they're allowed to, although they're a Twitch partner, they're allowed to live stream on multiple platforms, and they're allowed to work around that loophole because they donate 100% of earnings to charity. It's not a doable model by everybody, but considering we don't want to make profit off of our channel, I was considering doing something comparable. Child's Play was my first choice. So if you have a chance to connect us, I'd love to potentially talk to them one day about that.
With Child's Play?
Yeah, Child's Play.
All right, cool. I will. Yeah, I can do that. Like, all right, so yeah, send me an email after we're done with this too, and I'll make sure to get you hooked up with both them and Tom and all that.
Definitely. So guys, this has been going on for an hour and 20 minutes. That's okay. I want to say I've had a great time talking with you, really, truly. I think we could we could talk for hours, I'm sure. I'd love to have you back on again one day as well, talk about everything that you've been doing since. But before we
when I get Renegade's mini op seat done, we'll have to do another one.
Yeah, I really look forward to seeing that. For people that can't that hear it, that's a cat-sized OPC.
Yeah. So our cat's name is Renegade. We got her a few weeks ago. Well, about 2 months ago now.
Yeah, 2 months ago. We got her tiny little kitten. She's blown up into a
gigantic panther.
Yeah, like she was the freaking runt, and she like exploded, and she's still cute as hell. But
she loves the OP seats. And I was wondering about that. So can you say op seat or is it only OP seat?
So phonetically, it's op seat, but it's actually OPC. That stands for overpowered in gaming. Okay. Yeah. So it's meant to be a term that only gamers will really get.
Than op.
Yeah, OP for overpowered seat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
But
our adorable little kitty has the soul of Satan when it comes to these chairs. Sometimes.
Yeah, she loves sleeping in them, and then she'll like stretch and stick.
Yeah. And
sitting here and we'll feel the chair jerk back and she's on the back of it hanging like a rock climber, like, what's up?
Like we've got her mostly to the understanding that it's wrong to do that, and thankfully there's only like tiny puncture marks. I was already
like, Josh was ready to cry.
Yeah, I was
because it was my chair that got it, not his, and he was like, you can have mine, and I'm so sorry. And I'm like, dude, don't worry about it, it's all our cat. I understand, it's not a big deal.
But like the day that I got her really bad, because whenever we need to spank the cat, we spray her with a water bottle. And so one day I was moving stuff all around my room because I had to reorganize my room. She was upset that everything was getting moved around. She stared at me with these really screw you eyes, jumped up like here but on the other side, claws in as hard as she could, just staring at me. That day, it looked like she rode Splash Mountain. Like, I chased her, housed her. Like, that is a no. We're not going to have that kind of fight. Yeah. So we've mostly got her backed off of it, but like Trevor said before, we still saw a thing online that said that if you see that your cat likes clawing a certain thing, get them a facsimile of it. So we're like, well, hell, we'll build her a mini OPC chair, that.
Actually, hold on a sec. I'll show you guys the treehouse I built her. I'll go grab it.
Sure. Like, we built her a treehouse and scratching post that's PlayStation inspired. So we're like, we could build her a mini office chair, and that'd be a cool, fun thing for having stream. Because like when we're streaming, she'll come by and since we have these glomtoms on our laps, she likes to lay across the glomtom and watch us stream. She'll just lay her head on my arm while I'm playing and just stare at the screen and stare at the comments ticking in and stuff. She loves doing that, so it's like, well, that'd be the coolest thing ever to get her own little baby gaming chair.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is her PlayStation-inspired house. Like, I can't tell if you guys can get the entry holes are like triangle, cross, circle, square, and then PlayStation Blue on the pads.
Beautiful.
And it's got burlap all the way up the center.
That's been like torn up because
So she loves this thing though.
Yeah, so we're hoping to repeat success with that and get her a little chair. So
yeah, and now my chair's dirty. Darn it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
speaking of
I look forward.
Yeah.
I look forward
so
to seeing
we've
that.
absolutely loved these things, and it's so cute to watch her just like get up there and just pass out. It's like, okay, as long as you're not sinking the claws in, it's good. Anything other than that, though, and we're busting out the water bottle. But
Well, good on you. No, I used to have a cat that would destroy my chair, and I don't have a cat anymore. It was my ex-girlfriend's, and I fear about it all the time. I think, oh, if I had a cat, this would be bad. My company is this chair. I think I would really care now. You know, it means something.
Yeah.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, and I'm happy in our case that she's mostly not doing it anymore. We've gotten her to the point where she knows it's a bad thing.
Mhm.
But she lives up to her name, and the thing is, we named her basically after the woman who gave her to us, because the woman who gave her to us, her cat had kittens, and there was a whole crazy thing where like
her kitty died, and
yeah, but like she's an artist, and her art studio is called Renegade Art Studio. And right after she gave us the cat and gave the other two kittens to two of her other friends on other parts of Montana, the mama cat unfortunately disappeared, most likely passed away. And so she was heartbroken about it, but the thing that was nice for her is that it gave her excuses to road trip to visit all of us, because then she can see all the babies, and she'll do road trips, or she'll just drive around and say hi to all the descendants of her cat, you know, and so
and she said that ours looks the most like her mom.
Yeah, so she just gushes over her every time she's here. So
and crazy thing about ours is when the cat Monet, the mom, went to have her babies, she disappeared for like a week. Or a few nights, I guess. She disappeared because she went to someone. They live in a small rural town, and she went to some guy's land and had the babies in the shed, I guess. And so someone found her and brought her and the two babies home, or what they thought were the two babies, to Miss Valentina. She's our friend.
Yeah.
And so a few days go by, and the farmer, whatever the heck he was, said to her that I'm hearing meow and shed. I think there's more out there. And turns out Renegade was hidden under something when they found the others. So Renegade lived out there for like 2 or 3 days by herself
as the runt, without her mom or anything. So she's our little survivor, and we're trying to keep that in perspective. But
she's a touch feral.
Yeah, she's not clowning these chairs though. Like, but like I said, she's mostly learned, but we're still making her own little baby one that she can do with whatever the hell she wants.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing that, guys. We'll retweet the hell out of that.
We'll get you pics when it's done.
Cool. Well, guys, can you? You've done so much amazing things, and you're on your own path, and you're really forging your own trail. I know a lot of people, like you said, you're still in that sweat equity phase, but you've already made it far enough that you could give some advice probably to everybody else that's looking to potentially enter this educational space in the same way that you have. What would be the biggest piece of information or advice you could give somebody looking to follow in your footsteps, so to speak?
I'd have two of them. One is to show up. Because, going out there and doing the work is sometimes the best pitch you have. And the other one is, we actually just had a meeting with a financial advisor earlier today, and we were explaining to her how, a lot of people still look at us and go, what, you don't have money yet? Like they think that we should have been a quote unquote overnight success. And she said it best herself, that real success, real sustainable success is slow. It takes a long time to build a movement. It takes a long time to get there, and you have to prove you have that consistency. So just constantly going out there and making it count, and realizing that it's not a winning the lottery, it's a building the empire.
Yeah. Grassroots movements are called grassroots because grass takes a while to grow.
Yeah.
I guess for mine, also, I think I have two. Yeah. So first of all, dignity and respect. You cannot believe how far dignity and respect will get you. And a lot of times, you won't even realize what it's done for you when you've been respectful to someone, especially when it's someone who's used to not being respected. But so it's one of those things that it comes back to you. I mean, it comes in waves. And another thing is, on that same note, is when you're talking to somebody, if they're nice to you but they're not nice to the waiter or to the little people around them, they're not a nice person. So those are the kind of people that you want this with. You want people to surround yourself with people who are not only like-minded but also like-purposed. There's so many people out there that'll come up to you and be like, "Oh man, that's so cool! I want to help you out. Yeah, let's do this. I've got an idea for this." But they're more energy vampires than they are actual helping hands. And what I mean by that is that when they're on your staff or on your team or whatever, they put so much energy into being drama, so much energy into being oppositional, or just the weirdest thing ever. They put so much energy into wanting to not put energy into it. Like if they would just take half the energy that they put into being lazy and getting out of things into doing stuff, it might actually get done. But so I guess big one is dignity and respect, and the second one is build your inner circle and really find like-minded and like-purposed people.
Yep.
That's very great advice. Dignity and respect, to be able to find people in your inner circle, to be able to truly show up and work and kind of let that be your guiding path, basically. I really like the words that you guys have shared. To your core, you guys are really kind. It really shows.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you guys again so much for these amazing chairs.
We love them.
Definitely, you guys, you're perfect. You're exactly what we want to be sitting in our chairs every way. I don't know if I told you yet. I have a Trevor, and I have a twin brother, and his name is Trevor as well.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if I told you that before we leave. Guys, I have one last question for you. It's a bit of a softball, but everybody typically in the gaming sphere, that we interact with lots of things. We make chairs, there are tables and mice and keyboards and headsets and little widgets and that new headphone you got for your VR set. There's all these peripherals in our world, but everyone in a gamer sphere typically has disproportionate feelings about one of them. Their favorite one. For whatever reason, that mouse just happens to have the right balance, that keyboard has just the right click. Whatever it is, something just hits your buttons all just right. What's that item for you?
So obviously the super... Well, I'll put it as a combination thing, but the super kissy butt softball side of it is I really, really love the chair you gave us because, I'm a weirdo, and I'm not sitting cross-legged right now. I've been running all day, but when I'm sitting for marathon gaming or streaming, I like to sit cross-legged in a chair because I'm a weirdo.
Well, and his tailbone was broken in a car wreck a few years ago, so it makes it more comfortable for him to sit that way.
Yeah, because I have a jacked up tailbone from a car wreck. But so the fact that the Grandmaster is flat, not that weird kind of scoop. I mean, not weird. I mean, a lot of people do it, but that scoop up that makes it hard for me to sit cross-legged helps a lot, so that I can kind of get into a position that works for me from a physical therapy standpoint. I adore that. And then the other part that kind of ties into too is the Glom Toms, because this one, by the way, because I'm sure people saying, "Oh, I want to go buy one." Keep in mind the one you've seen from Trevor. That's how they actually look now. This one I got forever ago. I don't think they make them in this color anymore, but the nice part is their colors actually match the chairs a lot better now.
Yeah.
But especially with my car wreck injuries and stuff, I have a lot of neck stuff, and it's just nice when I go on like a long road trip. I bring this along with me, put it here, and then just rest my arms on it, and it allows me to sit a lot longer without hurting myself. And with the Grandmaster, since it's just wide enough that I can get it inside the armrests of here, so it just feels like you're in a complete cockpit, which means that like when I'm playing Planet Coaster, it feels like you're actually on the ride. So I just absolutely adore this combo. So, and again, that was a really super softball, but
that's what I wanted to hear. How about you, Trevor?
I can't think of anything other than, I mean, like, a lot of the peripherals that we have are stuff that's, it swaps out. You know, like I have a crystal blue controller and I have a white camo controller, and I swap between them all the time. And you know, one of them's dying; it's on its last legs. But and then you know, I can't really think of anything that's like something that's like a custom thing.
Doesn't have to be custom.
Other than the chair, yeah. Like,
yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, yeah.
Well, and also like
it is just so damn comfortable.
I will say with the Bionic headphones, we just discovered them. Like we found out about them a couple E3s ago, and
got one pair this last year.
And when we spoke with them over email about what we were using them for, they mailed us these extra ones. I will say that it is super nice. Like they have 2 different versions, so if you decide, people at home, that to go out and buy one, be sure which version you're buying, because the version we use is like flat against your ear, so you can still hear outside sound, which is great for us, because if we have to give the kids instructions, or we have them play Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes a lot, which means that the person in VR has to hear the outside world. But they also have an over-the-ear version that does the cup over your ear, which does the more immersive.
Yeah,
but
cuts you off.
But I would say that that's a thing that's nice, that they thought of something that, like, I'm kind of the attitude that with VR headsets that audio should be integrated. I mean, if you want, yeah, you know, give them the option to pop it off if they want to do a full studio headset. But generally speaking, at least for me, I like having the top of my head open so that I can get some ventilation and not feel too claustrophobic, just worry more about what I'm seeing and then hearing. And so I like that they came up with a solution that makes it integrated like that, because it's like I said, for when we're doing stuff in schools, that cuts out a huge step, because we're always having to, you know, get the set on the kid, adjust it, and then hand them a pair of headphones, tell them to feel for it, you know, because they have to grab it, and then tell them it's okay to stretch it, just stretch it over your hand and do this. Where this way, it's just, yeah, just pop them down, and it's good. So,
and okay, I do have one other thing, and it's not necessarily gaming related, but me being woodworking and metalworking, and like when our grandfather died, he left me his shop and everything, and
cool.
You know, I do a lot of 2D art stuff that isn't necessarily like industry quality stuff, but I have to, like, you know, sketch up my idea or make a blueprint of what I'm going to build. And there is like one thing that is like my favorite thing. And actually, do I have a second? Can I go run grab it real quick?
Sure. Yeah, if it's mobile.
All right, cool.
It's gonna be quick.
I'll be right back. You keep talking, Josh.
Alrighty. And the thing is, I'm not even sure what he like.
You don't know he's about to pull into the room.
Yeah, like I'm like, I'm kind of curious. But yeah, so
what games are you playing right now, Josh?
Right now, especially for our fun hangout nights, we've been doing kind of for the month we've been doing a horror. So we've been splitting it between Resident Evil HD, because, you know, just trying to get people hyped up for the Resident Evil 2 remake, which we have reserved. We are going to play that on stream. We actually got to play it at E3, and oh my god, it was good. And yeah, like, did you guys get to try it at E3?
We did not go to E3. No, I've never been.
Oh,
I hope to go.
So you played Resident Evil 2 back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So to play the remake at E3, you waited in line, or in our case, you know, because chair. Yeah. They gave you a Resident Evil 2 branded flashlight, which unfortunately you had to give back. Yeah. But then you went through a haunted house that was a recreation of the police station until you got to the demo station.
Zombie was in there eating the body.
Yeah, and then you got to, like, go into the main room where the African American officer passed away in the original version. Like, that big long room is the demo room. You get in there, you play the demo, and then they give you a Raccoon City Police Department shirt for playing.
That has bite marks and blood all over it, and then when you flip it up, it has a zombie face.
Yeah, so, oh my god, it was so, and it was good. It pays homage to the original, respects it,
and changes it in a good way.
Improves on it so much. So, but we're like, well, hell, let's play Resident Evil to get people kind of hyped up, because it's coming in a couple months. And then during those streams, we'll play Resident Evil and then switch to playing Friday the 13th, since it's free on PS Plus this month. And I was never super big into the films. I mean, I don't hate them. It was just never my thing. But playing the game, it is the best video game adaptation of hide and go seek I have ever played, and it is hilarious to hear people just go nuts when, like, you're playing as Jason and they realize that all of a sudden you're outside the room that they're in and you're busting in the window and they are just losing their cool and, like, running through the forest screaming and crying. It is just hilarious.
That sounds fun.
All right, and so my thing is, My mom, when we were kids, had this.
And it's kind of
I know.
Okay.
I'm purposely doing it. Had a set of like day planner and notebook, and I think the first two that all had this like kind of world map on the leather look, and it was beautiful. And I remembered it as a kid. And last year, I had told her about how I always loved that thing and all the stuff that it had, all the pieces she had for it, and I just loved the look. So for my birthday this year, she found a pencil pouch that is a roll-up style, like archaeologist style pencil pouch that has leather and an old world map style.
Like compass rose and all that?
Yeah, like, make sure I've got it the right way. Yep. So you can kind of see the, I don't know if it's visible or not.
Unfortunately, we're working on getting a better light for our camera.
But either way, it's got a cool map on it and stuff. And then on the inside, it's got all my pencils and pens and stuff that I use for like when I'm drafting or coming up with blueprints.
And prototyping.
And then, as a whole, that's probably my favorite, thing. And then my favorite two pieces of the inside of that are, first of all, I found this at Hobby Lobby. It's a miniature
triangle-shaped ruler.
Yeah, the triangle-shaped one, like they use for drafting. So it fits in there. And then this pencil is a $20 aircraft aluminum.
Up a little bit more.
$20 aircraft grade aluminum mechanical pencil, and it is just the nicest pencil I have ever used. The grips have like little indented rubber and
classy.
Yeah, love this pencil.
Especially since we work with so many different artists and programmers, there's a lot of prototyping on our.
Yeah.
Which in that note, on that vein too, for a lot clothing, that's part of the reason I am so excited for Dreams, because I think that with our skill sets that it'll help us, because our artists and programmers have gotten really good at understanding what Trevor and I are trying to say, because we'll be like, okay, I know I can describe like 60% of it, so I'm hoping you can fill in the remaining 40.
Yeah.
Or I'm hoping maybe this can get to 70%, so that way we're not stressing them out quite as bad,
Yeah.
While still, of course, leaving room for them to do their own cool interpretation and remix of it. But I'm really excited to see what opportunities Dreams offers people like Trevor and I, who
aren't necessarily the greatest artist ever,
but can find ways to express ourselves that way, and also ways to coordinate within our team and prototype something, saying, hey, I want a game to play like this, or I want a camera to behave like this, that we prototype it in an engine, send them a video of the prototype and say, this is the rough idea, here's how I roughly did it. So hopefully that kind of gives you more basis than a paragraph typed out in Microsoft Word or whatever.
Mm-hmm. No, it sounds incredibly more helpful. I know that people are taking on VR and type designing further and further into the actual design stages. So
dude, like with Dreams, they flat out said it supports VR from day one.
Wow. So you keep saying Dreams. I'm sorry if I'm not up to date on this. What's Dreams?
Oh, dude. So
so I gotta go put this back.
I will start the explanation. So Dreams is the new game from Media Molecule, invented Little Big Planet, and it's basically Little Big Planet on super duper ultra steroids. And how Little Big Planet you could kind of create, you create, but it was like side to side. It was basically like Mario and Sonic. Well, Dreams, you open up a world and you can create in every direction for up to 2 cubed kilometers.
Whoa.
And it's in every direction in VR or non-VR, whatever you wish. And you can use move remotes or a controller, and you're sculpting digital clay, and you're actually grabbing pieces of clay and pulling it or carving it. And actually, it's the cover story for Game Informer this month, and Game Informer is doing an entire month-long expose on it. But you can literally create everything you want in it. For instance, the litmus test that I know some execs at Sony, I don't know if this guy wants to be named or not, we're friends with a certain exec at Sony, that this was his litmus test, and I know that Game Informer later asked them the same question. It's like, so is Dreams robust enough that you can build the entirety of Little Big Planet inside of Dreams? And the answer is yes. It's a full game engine that players can use just sitting on their seat and painting a game into existence. Or if you put VR on, you're creating a game around you.
I love the art style. I'm Googling it over here while you're talking. It looks beautiful. Kind of
Yeah, and it can
soft
actually handle
watercolor.
any art style. That's just the art style that Mia Molecule is doing to promote it. But they've
Oh,
done pictures of stuff in Dreams that you would never know was painted in that engine,
I was gonna say I'm
and
seeing some
it is
variety.
crazy. And
Yeah.
like, let's say you make something you really like you build a motorcycle in Dreams, and you know, I really like that motorcycle. You click a button, it sends you a file to your computer that you can 3D print and have it in real life.
Oh, that's so cool. That is
Yeah,
so
and then you can
cool.
even make models in it to import into Unity or Unreal too.
Mhm.
And like, it even got to the point where like when you see the new cover for Game Informer, that cover
Mhm.
wasn't laid out in Photoshop or anything. Like, they actually have a story where the Game Informer editors were walking through Media Molecule's halls, saw a guy laying out that cover, and they're like, "Oh, cool, you're laying out our Photoshop. We're so happy you're doing that for us." And the guy looked at them weird, like, "This isn't Photoshop." He grabbed it and spun it, and they realized he was creating it inside of Dreams. And they, like, one of the execs at Media Molecule, Kareem Atuni, looked at him and said, "Yeah, we've gotten to the point on team where it's faster for us to work in Dreams than Photoshop, and they're using Dreams as a replacement for Photoshop in their company now."
Wow. Really?
Yeah,
I'm
you can
looking at
do
the cover
video editing in
now.
it. You can do music. Like, dude, we got it. You know, at E3 this
Wow.
year, you know, Sony always has their big booth, and
Uh-huh.
they had an area that was just for industry people. So, like, basically, if you got the free industry pass as opposed to paying for a public one,
Mm.
you could flash your industry pass, and then you could go in for extended demos. We got an hour-long demo with Dreams, where first of all they sat us down and they first helped us make an entire Mario 64 style platforming. I mean, of course, they didn't say Mario 64, but
Mm.
I'm saying Mario 64 so that people at home can understand that it's full 3D platforming in every direction. You know, it's a full 3D world. It's not Little Big Planet trapped in lanes.
Mm.
And not only did we do that in 30 minutes, but the next 30 minutes, they handed a controller to one of my guys, Colin, and one of their guys took a different controller. They sat down together. Their controllers on screen became a series of instruments, and they did a jam session together and created the backtrack music to the level.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Every part of it you can make. That's
Yeah, and then you
amazing.
can literally make anything, and it's like operating GarageBand. Like, it opens up a version of GarageBand where you
Uh-huh.
chop and you say, okay, I want it to last this exact many
Mm.
seconds, and you can literally do anything and everything you could do in Little Big Planet on
Uh,
steroids. And it
wow.
becomes a full music creation suite, a full video editing suite, a full Photoshop. They even wanted it to be used by like architects to create 3D representations of architectural designs.
Yeah, no, it sounds like they gamified the Unity gaming engine itself.
Yeah, that's basically what they're saying internally, is that it's their answer to Unity, but they're not trying to, you know, like be jerks to Unity, I think, because of
Yeah,
course Unity's PlayStation
respect.
supported, but they, you know, they want tomorrow's game designers to be discovered with what they make in Dreams. That we
Mhm.
first hear about them by what they've built in that system. And like, the way I put it, and we kind of stole this description from Insomniac, even though they were describing something totally different with this analogy years ago. But when we first found out about Dreams and saw what they were doing with us teaching kids in Little Big Planet, it's like we got really good at chiseling wheels out of stone, and then a freaking Harrier lands right next to us.
Yeah,
There's
that's
that many
the
tools.
gap in technology level.
Yeah, and actually, another great way I've heard it put from Game Informer, one of the guys that was doing the story, is he's like, you know, when we were first going to go out there and cover Dreams, I thought it was going to be the harmonics, you know, analogy of going from Guitar Hero, one plastic guitar, to Rock Band, where it's a whole plastic band. He's like, it's not really that analogy, though. It's going from one plastic guitar to a real guitar in a real band, where you're also doing the promoting, the marketing, the building of the stage, the building of the brand. He said you're going from pretending to be the thing on a plastic thing to actually being the thing. You're actually the game developer there. You're actually coding. You're actually doing 3D
Modeling,
art, modeling, animation,
all of
creating
that.
a world. He said it was just mind blowing, and the fact that they made this so easy that you can make and express yourself, and that you just forget that what you're doing for fun right there is stuff that people normally had to pay for years of college to know how to do.
Indeed. If the Game Informer's cover is any example of what we'll be able to make, I need to go get a headset right now. Go play this. It looks
Oh yeah,
amazing.
dude.
Yeah.
I've been drilling. We've been told that you know, we'll stream this if Media Molecule allows us. We've been told that we'll be first American beta, but they haven't told us yet whether or not we'll. visually show anything from it. The only thing they've confirmed about the beta is it's this year, and everything being in the beta will carry over to the final game.
Nice. Well, I look forward to picking this up.
Oh, I was gonna say, look up their stuff from PAX, dude. From PAX, they made because on the Bubble Gummy. From PAX, they made an entire war zone, including a first-person shooter mode where you go into a mech and you're like launching like volleys of missiles into this war-torn, blown-up city, chasing down alien invaders, and it looks like two totally separate games. And they were both like the Alien Invader one. They made mostly within 30 minutes at a PAX panel.
Jeez.
Wow, that's remarkable. So just to show that dynamic variety of the game, so it really is an engine as a game.
Kind of crazy thing about that is we were asked by our ad club here in Great Falls, which is like
Advertising Federation, basically all the major marketers in town.
They asked us to come do a presentation and explain what we do, and while we were doing that, Josh had set up the PS3 and I was making their ad club logo in Little Big Planet. So it's that same kind of idea, but it took me 45 minutes of Josh talking to do their logo, and then they made an entire game in 30.
Yeah,
like holy crap, that is a big difference. But yeah, it was awesome at that ad club meeting because it's all these big wigs of Great Falls, in surrounding areas, and they are dead silent except for every few minutes while Josh is talking. You'd hear someone whisper, "Oh, he's doing our logo on the TV. Look, he's doing the logo."
Yeah,
and then Josh gets done. He goes, "Any questions?" And it was dead silent for like a minute, and Josh is up there going, "Oh God, and then all at once, everyone stood up and just started cheering for him. It was intense.
And it was cool because it was back to that we contextualized video games for him, and I think Dreams is just going to do that so much more. Like we have a friend here who's a local architect that we've been talking to him about Dreams and what we want to do, and we'll hopefully get to do a cool thing with him in that. Like, I just cannot wait to get our hands on it, and also to teach kids with it because from what I've seen of the videos when they show the programming, it takes what Little Big Planet did right, and I don't want to say simplifies it because it's actually way more robust, but it makes it more user-friendly and accessible. Like, so it's for instance, you can have a lot more control over the individual aspects of how the objects you create behave. So people don't have to test random stuff, not sure what they're doing, and just hope it works. They can say, "Oh, well, I want this to turn red. Oh, hey, there's a thing. If I plug this in here, when it gets power, it'll turn red." Like, it's a lot more logical in how it flows. But you can do so much more than Little Big Planet, and I hope they find ways to integrate Sackboy into it, just because I think Sackboy is the perfect Sackgirl is the perfect mascot for creativity.
Yeah.
But for the pure under the hood of what it does, it jaw-dropping just somehow fails to describe it.
Well, once it actually comes out and you start teaching people with the levels that you're making, show us the stuff.
Yeah. And we're going to redo all our educational presentations in it.
It's going to be a lot of work, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be so amazing.
You got to learn it somehow, right? You might as well remake your presentation.
Exactly.
Double dip. That's cool. Well, guys,
so, our mom made dinner for us, so we got to get moving before too long.
It's good. But... I was actually just about to wrap up and say thank you so much for coming down and talk with us. Trevor, it was really nice to meet you.
It was nice meeting you too, man.
Right back at you, to both of you. I mean, I love Kaizen. I love Addatudez. I love Ingenium, which I don't know if that's My Hero Academia reference or not. Or is that just an accident?
It's not.
No, that's just an accident? Okay.
Yeah,
cool name of a hero out of the show.
It means unbridled potential or something like that?
No, it means a hidden potential that you could potentially like reveal or whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds like what you would name a potential hero in an anime. Cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, guys, stay in touch. Keep doing everything amazing that you're doing. If there's you and reach out and let us know. I look forward to the next time we get to meet each other, if it's at E3 or something else.
We'll hit you up as soon as the kitty version of the OP.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Seriously, if you guys ever need anything, just let us know. Like, if you ever want us to do a talk for like anyone that that you think would enjoy like one of our Little Big Planet talks, we can do that. If
definitely.
You guys, I don't know where you guys are based out of.
South Florida.
Okay, so if like ever you guys need us to do like a VR demo or something, and we can make it out that way, like we'd love to do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And if we're in your area or at the same event, we'll have to meet up for sure.
Oh,
yeah, dude.
absolutely, absolutely.
Definitely.
Let's do it at E3.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if I got to work myself up to E3. You guys got intros. I got to get in. It sounds like an amazing time.
We can
talk about that after.
Send me an email after this, so that way and remind me. So it's E3, Glom Tom, and
What was the
Child's
other one?
Play.
Child's Play. Yeah.
Actually. But yeah, send me an email after this, and I will make sure to connect you with all of that. Okay?
You guys are great. Thank you again so much for today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
No
it.
problem.
It was an honor meeting you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Dude, thank you.
And again, thank you guys so much for the chairs. They have been a blessing.
Yeah, dude, we love them.
Our pleasure. I just hope we can do more for you guys. You take
All
care.
right.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right, see ya.